Hey traders, welcome back to the channel. In this video, we're going to talk about Tilray, ticker symbol TLRY. Now, today was a pretty good day for the stock. We saw the market as a whole recover, and a lot of cannabis stocks did pretty well again. However, what we're seeing right now in the news is a lot of cannabis related news. So in this video, I'm going to break that down. And as always, I'm going to go over the charts, breaking down key levels, key supports, and more, so we know how to best play this stock moving forward. So without any further ado, leave a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and let's get started. Okay, so when it comes to news specifically related to the cannabis industry and Tilray, we saw a big announcement out of Washington last week. We saw that a bill to end federal marijuana prohibition is being drafted by Senate Democrats. We're talking about the Cannabis Administration and Opportunity Act, which would not only allow state compliant cannabis businesses to access essential federal services, but it would also protect consumers from being arrested or barred from receiving essential services for using cannabis where it is legal. It's being fostered by Chuck Schumer, Ron Wyden, and Cory Booker, and it's going to be coupled with the Safe Banking Act, which is already passed in the House and would serve as a catalyst for the marijuana industry, making cannabis accessible and transportable across the nation. So that's obviously overall a positive, but what you have to understand about this bill is that it is still a few months out from being finalized. It has been met with some criticism. Essentially, after it was unveiled, critics piled in on all directions. It's not a surprise that the legislation wouldn't please everyone, given the controversies around cannabis. However, the bill's own authors acknowledged shortcomings, saying in a summary of the proposal that there's still no standard to measure drug driving or research how marijuana affects fetal health, and that limits their ability to be as comprehensive as they'd like. So this isn't a done deal. This isn't set in stone. However, that bill is being drafted, and as a result, we haven't really seen a major pop in the cannabis stocks. However, we are once again moving in the right direction. We've seen many different efforts in Washington this year, and we're going to see many more as the year continues. And that's going to help cannabis stocks, and it's going to especially help the leader of the cannabis industry, which we all know is Tilray. We saw a couple other pieces of cannabis related news coming out as well, essentially just kind of driving our bullish thesis that right now the U.S. is making tons of efforts to make cannabis reform and legalization happen, and that's going to help out the stock. We saw that today. Amazon endorsed legal cannabis, and as well, we saw local news out of New York that police are no longer seizing marijuana at New York airports. So a couple other pieces of positive news. None of these are going to have major effects like we would see if we got any legislation passed in Washington. However, the positive headlines are out there, and we're seeing that, progress is continuing to slowly be made, and that within the next few weeks or the next few months, we should be seeing more of these news headlines come out as the bill is finalized, and then it goes and tries to get passed in the House and the Senate, and eventually by the president. But now going into the charts, this is where things get really interesting for Tilray right now. First off, shout out to Montana Trades for kind of breaking down this pennant that's been forming over the last few months. As we can see here, with the kind of sell-off that we've seen over the last couple of weeks, just with the overall weaker market, Tilray is kind of approaching the bottom of this pennant that's established. We actually kind of tested it out perfectly yesterday, and then again today, kind of testing this lower bound of $13 to $13.20. I currently have $12.90 as my lowest bound, where this pennant could still, technically be intact. So we tested these lows and we got a sharp bounce off of that today as momentum returned in the market. So this is still holding up beautifully. And if we do indeed already have the bottom in on this lower bound test, well, then we have nothing but upside ahead all the way to a retest of about $17 to $18. So we could be seeing that very soon. The chart is setting up beautifully for that. And going into the daily chart on the 1 minute, with about 30 minutes left to go before market close, we are seeing once again what happens when charts kind of just respect their patterns, respecting the pennant. We did kind of test that lower bound. We had a low of 1303 today, and then right after that, with the market turning, we saw some volume flow back on the buyer side, and we've just been slowly grinding up all day, currently sitting at 1417. broke past this key $13.90 to $14 resistance. Now that's going to become support, and that's going to be an important one to hold if we want to keep going forward. But now hopping into indicators, we're going to start off by just taking a look at this yellow line here. That's the volume weighted average price. Tilray is well above that with about 30 minutes left to go before market close, meaning that it's probably going to close above the VWAP, meaning that the bulls are indeed going to be in control of tomorrow's session. So we could expect to see some more positive momentum as the volume and bullish sentiment returns to the market. Other indicators not so bullish currently for Tilray. With the big sell off that happened last week, we did break below all of our favorite moving averages. We currently have the 200-day at 1596, the 21-day EMA at 1626, and the 50-day moving average at 1687. As a result of Tilray's current price being lower than all of those, we are sitting in bearish territory. However, like I said, if we do follow this pennant that's been established and go retest the upper bounds, we could break above all those moving averages. That could lead to more momentum and more volume in this stock. And ultimately, we could break out of this pennant to the upside if that were the case. So there is right now bullish sentiment. However, that's nothing set in stone. Right now, we are respecting our low levels very well, and buyers are coming in during the right time. So that's definitely a positive. But now let's just take a look at one other indicator that is pretty bullish. As you guys can see here, looking at the RSI, we are in a very overextended territory on the oversold side. The selling off can't happen forever. Eventually, the buyers have to come back to the market. And that's exactly what we're seeing here right now. We had the lowest RSI that we've pretty much seen all year, all the way pretty much back to last September. So, you could tell that we were in very oversold territories, and eventually the buyers and the momentum will come back. And when they do, with the RSI being as low as it currently is, there is a lot of room for this stock to run. So that is a pretty bullish indicator right there. It just requires patience. You have to understand that, with the market being as choppy and as bearish as it's been in the last couple of weeks, it could take a while for that momentum to return. But once it does, things are going to start to look up for Tilray. Now taking a look at our key levels heading into tomorrow, starting on the support side, depending on where we close, we may be using this 1420 level as our first support tomorrow. If we do close below it, it will be our first resistance level tomorrow. After that, we have a big level right here from 1390 all the way to $14. As you guys can see, we were absolutely grinding to get over that today. It required multiple volume pops in order to get us above that $14 range and hold it. But now that we are above it, it is going to be a main support for us to hold. If we can hold it, then it's going to become a lot easier for Tilray to make that next leg up. If we cannot hold it, it's not the end of the world. We still do have support at 1360, 1330, and our last line of support at 1295. If 1295 breaks, all of a sudden we are going to be indeed breaking down from that big pennant. And as a result, there's probably going to be a lot more downside ahead. So be very cautious, know what you're risking. But also when it comes to support, if you are looking to add to your position or buy position, make sure to target these support levels, because by doing so, you're going to minimize your risk and maximize your upside. But now taking a look at the upside with resistance levels tomorrow, like I said, 1420, a very clean range. If we can hold above it, well, then 1465 is going to be our next resistance level. We have a nice little gap to fill all the way until there. After that, it's going to get a little bit more narrow. We're going to go to 1485 and 1510. And above 1510, things will start to get interesting. There will probably be a lot more momentum in the stock, and we're probably going to start retesting some of these moving average and try to get us back into bullish territory. So that's something to keep your eye out on. Last thing to point out when it comes to the charts and the technicals is going to be volume. As you guys can see, a little bit lower volume than kind of what we've been establishing here over the last week or so. Nevertheless, it is very consistent. But when it does come time for the bullish momentum to return back into the market, look for the volume to increase. If the volume remains at these levels, we're probably not going to see that big breakout from that pennant that we've established over the last few months. However, if we do start to get a lot of volume as we rise in this pennant, I'm talking about volume that we've seen even as close as last month, where we had these 30 million days, 85 million days, and we've seen Tilray with massive volume before. If we do get those types of volume, well, then all of a sudden we can expect a breakout from the pennant to the upside. And that's where things are going to start to get very, very positive and very aggressive with the price action. So keep your eye on that. Volume is going to be a big indicator of what happens next for the stock. But let me know what you think happens next. I'm always interested to hear your feedback. If you have any suggestions for me or questions, let me know. I'm always happy to answer them. If you like this video, leave a thumbs up. If you want to see more content like this, please subscribe to the channel. And aside from that, have a great rest of your night.